Hello and good day, Prime Minister Trudeau. I would not be surprised at this point if you are simply tired of hearing my name. It's Jeffrey Ort, and if you have managed to get through the first two videos, the content is quite graphic, but if you've managed to get through them, then you will be able to unpack these two sentences. My childhood and terminal medical issues are more violent than the David Reimer situation. David Reimer was a Canadian citizen, and if you are unfamiliar with him, Wikipedia can bring you up to speed. My 2017 abduction, international trafficking, and detransitioning is more violent than the Eden Knight situation. If you are unfamiliar with the Eden Knight circumstances, you will have to go on mainstream media and the news, as she took her life recently this year. Prime Minister Trudeau, I have at times made reference to the horrible treatment I have received at the hands of the Liverpool RCMP. The assaults were committed by individual constables who did not want to deal with who they portrayed as a welfare degenerate, a liar, and a troublemaker. Judge Silver has highlighted this as a common practice in the legal system. I have referenced the actions of the supervisors of the Liverpool detachment of the RCMP as torture. That's the deliberate infliction of extreme physical and emotional pain in retaliation for some action or perceived action. The shift from assault by individuals to torture by the supervisors was the result of my serious incident response team applications and the production and distribution of the documents that are contained in a GitHub repository in my name. I produced these documents when I was still capable of writing, before seizures and strokes stripped that skill from me, and I produced these documents when I was trying to ask for help a year ago. The Liverpool RCMP have spent 3 years building a false narrative about who I am to justify their actions, or more specifically, to justify doing nothing, to justify endlessly declaring violent criminal acts as civil matters so that they don't have to become involved. They have ignored judges, multiple judges in civil courts, declaring those same events as criminal acts that I am responsible for reporting to the RCMP. The Liverpool RCMP has refused for 3 years to verify my identity, my employment history, or the simple fact that I entered the country on April 22, 2017, after a 2.5-decade absence. Prime Minister Trudeau, I understand it's difficult to imagine someone going through my childhood and early adult years and then claiming that they don't have a PTSD issue, they don't have an anxiety or depression issue, that they came through it essentially a good person. I know it's difficult to imagine being told at the age of 19 that you have 20 years, that you will struggle to see 40. And I have lived the best life I could. I've accomplished amazing things that have no relevance to my current circumstances. The RCMP have refused to verify my identity, and I would like the Government of Canada to do that, to know that I am who I say I am, and I've done what I say I've done. And that starts with my education. Canada will have the easiest time verifying that I graduated from high school in Nova Scotia in 1991, that I went to St. Anne's University to learn French from 91 to 92, that I went to the Agricultural College in Truro from 92 to 97, that I earned a Dalhousie degree, an honours Dalhousie degree, with 2 majors and a minor. Canada will have the easiest time verifying that of the 40 teaching qualifications I possess, the rarest one I earned at Acadia in 2010. That I was one of only 200 people in the world that had that teaching qualification in 2010. Canada will have the easiest time verifying that in 2016, I was trained as a structural welder at Camosun College. The Canadian government can reach out to the U.S. representatives in Ottawa because the U.S. representatives will have the easiest time with the next section. They can confirm that I traveled extensively in the U.S. in the 1990s and early 2000s, although no one knows that it was for medical reasons. The American representatives will have the easiest time confirming that I went to graduate school in Lenox, Massachusetts from 1999 to 2001, and I earned my master's degree in chemical engineering. The American representatives will have the easiest time confirming that it was at a small private school called the Lennox Institute of Water Technology, and that I was the last graduating class. The school closed with the death of the founder a year after my program ended. The American representatives will have the easiest time confirming that I was issued a U.S. Social Insurance number when I was licensed as a public school teacher in the Washington, D.C., or District of Columbia. This occurred between 2014 and 2016. The Canadian government can reach out to the Australian representatives in Ottawa to confirm that I attended university online between 2004 and 2006 at the University of New England in Australia, that I earned a master's degree in applied linguistics, and that this photograph of me on the bicycle trip, that was used in a brochure for an Australian graduate program for 11 years. Because I'm good at what I do. The Australian representatives will have a more difficult time confirming that I completed the in-person portion at Sunshin Women's University in Seoul, South Korea, and that I completed the in-person portion at Korea University in Seoul, South Korea. The Canadian government can reach out to the Swiss representatives in Ottawa to confirm that in 2016 I completed the first year of the MBA in Risk and Crisis Management at SMC University in Switzerland. I did this work online while I lived and worked in Saudi Arabia, at the #1 school in Saudi Arabia. I was a teacher and a staff trainer at King Saud University. What will be more difficult for anyone to confirm is that in 2017 I attempted to transfer my credits to a university in Hawaii for a joint MBA PhD in Risk and Crisis Management. I was abducted in the middle of that process. Prime Minister Trudeau, the Liverpool RCMP have known all this. They have been in possession of my records and passports since 2019, and yet they persist in representing me in their reports as a welfare degenerate, a liar, a fraud, and a troublemaker. They do this to justify their inaction because they do not wish to deal with the welfare recipients in Liverpool. It is such a common tactic that Judge Silver recognized it and identified it in open court. I am none of those things. I am not and will not be on welfare. I have only gone to the RCMP when ordered to do so by medical professional and the courts, or to get someone who needed help. Prime Minister Trudeau, there's one last component to my identity that the RCMP have known and refused to acknowledge or verify because it undermines their false narratives as much or more than my education and other accomplishments. I've been employed to investigate physical and sexual predators in the education systems of 18 countries over a 25-year period. It is not something that I want to do. It is not something that I enjoy doing. I was employed in the supervision and training of adults for this time frame because I needed the money for medical treatments. My personality, the one that I woke up with after a fatal beating at the age of 7, according to my grandfather, is one that is not afraid of anything. I don't panic. I don't run. I stand my ground and I do my job. And that has led me to that form of employment. The Liverpool RCMP have had that person as a potential witness for the last 4 years. The RCMP have had a doctoral student with a quarter century of supervision and investigative experience as a potential witness. The RCMP could have had that person testify about international sex trafficking in Nova Scotia in 2019. The RCMP could have had that person testify about 2 threats of mass shootings in April and May of 2021. The RCMP could have had that person testify about welfare fraud during COVID that led to the abuse and exploitation of women and the disabled. The RCMP could have had that person testify to many of the violent crimes that have occurred as attempts to threaten witnesses in connection to those trafficking and mass shooting situations. The RCMP could have had that person, but they decided to avoid dealing with the welfare recipients. They decided to lie and obstruct and intimidate and assault and torture that individual. And they have refused to verify my identity to further that false narrative.